Hello, today I want to do a book review on a book by Professor Michael L. Brown, and he is the Jewish apologist, the world's leading Jewish apologist for Messianic Judaism. And the book is called Answering Jewish Objections to Jesus, and this is actually volume 3. Right? Now, I bought this, 2 years ago maybe. I had been a Jewish believer in Jesus for at that time 40 years, you know. So I had no doubts that Jesus was the Messiah, but I decided to start listening to YouTube videos, right, of the debates between those who believe in Jesus and those who don't. I am chronically sick with severe ME, and I knew these videos were there, but I just didn't feel up to it, because you know what it's like when you're not well and you thought, you can't, I don't want to listen to all of that. I had studied a theology in my 30s, but even, you know, being so unwell, you just, I can't go into all of that. I just not up to it. But then one day I had quite a good day, and I thought I'll have a go, and I'll just try and just listen to a small amount, and then perhaps do a small amount the next day. So I listened to Professor L. Brown, first of all, in a debate with a rabbi. Is it Rabbi Kravitz? He's passed away or something. He was working for Jews for Judaism. Emmanuel, that's I think his first name, not his Christian name. He wouldn't like to say that. No. Right. So the rabbi, and I was quite impressed with Professor Brown at first when he started talking. I thought, but I know this might sound awful, but when I was listening to him and looking at him, I didn't feel I was listening to a Jew. And I don't know why I should think that, but that's all I kept feeling, is there's something about this man that doesn't feel Jewish. Now, he is Jewish. It's both his parents were Jewish. He had a bar mitzvah. He is Jewish. But I just listening to him, and although I was impressed with him, it was like being impressed with a non-Jew. I just something about he doesn't feel Jewish somehow. Is he? Well, yes, of course he's Jewish. And so I thought he was doing quite well. Made some, what on the surface seemed to be quite good points. On the surface, you know, you're just listening without thinking deeply about what he said. You just, that's just quite a good point. And then, of course, the rabbi responded, and in one sentence, he made mincemeat of Professor Brown. And I must admit, secretly, I was quite glad, really, because I suppose, you know, we Jews, you know, we've got an answer, and we've got answers for everything. It was the rabbi's reply was very, very smart, and it was. I thought, well, he's right. He's right. The rabbi was right, and then so the discussion continued. And again, the rabbi was coming back just brilliantly. And I was really impressed with this rabbi. But having said that, I decided to send away for this book, right, by Professor Brown, because I thought it would be interesting to read one of his books. And I was also at that time, I was wanting to look at why Jesus wasn't considered to be the Messiah according to the rabbis, and I also wanted to make sure that to cover ground in my own belief, what I believe, just to make sure there were different things perhaps I hadn't quite got, that perhaps to understand more, and so on. So I just thought it would be an interesting thing to do. Not because I had any doubts about Jesus being the Messiah. No, you know, I mean, this was over 40 years. I remember I came to faith at the age of 18, and this was in my late 50s when I read this book. Well, was I disappointed? I was so disappointed. The first thing is, as you know, I've done some writing, a lot of writing actually in my life, and the first question as a writer you have to ask when you're writing anything, whether is, who is your audience? Who are you aiming for? And I would say this book is really being written for people who are Jewish people who already believe in Jesus, or Christians wanting to read a book like this. In other words, it's for the converted. And the reason why I say this is because he, every few sentences, is coming out with phrases like, "Praise be to God, what a great salvation we have in Yeshua." I'm sorry for laughing. I'm sorry for laughing, but I was a Jewish believer in Jesus, and that turned me off. And this kept happening every few sentences. Praise be to God. What would we do without his great salvation? The Lord God on high, mighty to be praised, sending the Mashiach. And it's just like an evangelical Christian preacher, right? He is writing in that style. And I'm thinking, no Jewish person is going to want to read a book like this using that kind of phraseology. It's like, ugh, ugh. Who wants to read that? No Jewish person wants to read that. We don't want to listen to it, never mind read it. Who wants to hear that? And, what fervent, passionate, spirit-filled Christians don't realise is this kind of talking and writing is the very thing that puts everybody off. Not just Jewish people, but non-Jewish people. Because it's like, people don't want to hear that. What people want to hear is a very serious, thoughtful analysis, whether it's in speech or in writing, something that will make you think, something with some depth to it, something that you feel that this person you're listening to or is writing is a serious person, who is a thoughtful person, who is not shallow, and the substance to what you're listening to and the substance to what you're reading. And I didn't get this from this book. I was so disappointed. I expected more detail. I have studied theology, and the books are very boring. I remember always being in the library thinking, why can't these people write? You're terrible communicators. They're obviously very clever people. No one's doubting how clever they are, but the ability to communicate in the written word, I thought when I was studying theology, it was appalling. It's so dry. It's like dry. Give me a drink of water. I need a drink of water. I can't cope with the dryness of these books. And this is what I felt a little bit with this book. With everything seemed so brief. He wasn't going into depth about anything, really. He wasn't bringing anything new to the table. He wasn't making me think and say, oh, isn't that interesting? But you might say, well, you've been a believer for 42 years, you know it all. Well, no, that's not how it works. Because the fact is, as a great reader of books, every writer has something unique to offer and to bring to the table. So it doesn't matter how much you've read on a subject. If somebody's very good, they can usually get you to think about things in a deeper way or look at things at a different angle, and you can still get something out of it. But I couldn't get anything out of this book. Now, I'm very old-fashioned and traditional regarding books. I believe it's like, for me, It's like one of the 10 Commandments. When you read a book, you must finish it. You must never, never leave a book halfway. It's something I've always felt strongly about in my life, because I always want to give the writer time. I want to give them time. I can't get into this book. It's not making sense. But I want to give the writer time, so I persevere. How many books I persevered with right to the very end? Because I've always wanted to try and give the writer a chance. And so this is what I was doing with the professor's book. I found it very dry. I found it very unenlightening, not illuminating, no depth to it. I find this constant, this phraseology of praise Jesus, praise Yeshua, praise the Lord. I found that so irritating. And that was one of the main reasons I did not complete this book. I could not complete it. And I was a Jewish believer in Jesus for 40 years. And reading that over and over again, it's just so crass, and it's just so shallow. And I'm, of course, as I'm reading these words, I'm seeing him. And I've already watched a few videos, and this is what he's like. He talks like an evangelical preacher, and there's no sense of Jewishness about him. And but this isn't the professor's fault, because the professor came to faith at the age of 16. 16. 2 years before I did. I came to faith at the age of 18, but his background was not. He did get bar mitzvahed, but he wasn't from an Orthodox background. His parents were allowing him to go to church. I mean, that to me is beyond the pale. What Jewish parent allows a 16-year-old child to go to church? It's just unthinkable. It's just most Jewish parents say, you're not going to church. What do you think? If you want to do that when you're 18 or 21, you can do, but you don't come. You're not living in this house and going to church. I mean, most Jewish families, they just wouldn't allow it. And I'm thinking, his father's a high court judge. Why didn't he put down his foot down and say, you're not going to church? This, and this is a Jewish home. You're not going to church. You're not going to church every week. But he came to this faith through a religious experience. He went to the altar call at the age 16, had a spiritual experience, which are very, very gripping, these spiritual experiences, and they really do have an effect on you. And he has believed in Christianity ever since. Now, the professor, since the age of 16, has been going to church every week, faithfully, probably twice a day, like most evangelical Christians. Yes, he's got into the Jewish Christian movement, Messianic Judaism, but even that is Christianity with schmaltz. It's Christianity with a Hamish cucumber. It's you put on a tallis and you praise Jesus. It's a Yiddishe Christianity, and the purpose of Yiddishe Christianity is to try and to help Jewish people feel more comfortable with Christianity, because they began to realise in the 1970s that Jewish people were uncomfortable in the church because it's a different culture, it's a different kind of service, everything's totally different. It's totally different. Well, it's a different culture. So they thought, we've got to make it more Yiddish. We've got to put some, we've got to get some tallis, we've got to get a yamelki, and we've got to have some Hamish cucumber, we've got to have a kichels after the service, we've got to have some Palwyn number 10 wine after the service, we've got to make people feel at home, it's coming to shul, but you're just praising Yeshua, because you're calling him by his Hebrew name, right? And so this is what Michael Brown has spent a lot of his life, because he's been living in America, and that's probably spent a lot of his life within the whole of Christianity, including Yiddishe, schmaltzy Christianity. And I would say about to keep on track with the book is I don't think Professor Brown actually knows his Jewish audience, because if he knew his Jewish audience, he would know that saying, praise the Lord, praise Yeshua, praise Almighty God for great salvation. All these things would just turn off most Jews. It most turn off most non-Jews, but it would definitely turn off from Jews. From Orthodox Jews would not read. They wouldn't be able to. I don't think. They just start reading these phrases and exclamations of praise Yeshua, and they would be turned off. I don't think they would even finish the book. And this is looking at it from his perspective. This is not good, because I presume he's writing to try and persuade Jewish people that Jesus is the Messiah. But I would argue he's failed miserably, because he didn't even convince me, and I was Jewish and a believer in Jesus. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, this is a very, very poor analysis. And this is not convincing me. This is not setting in seal my faith. This is making me think, maybe I should go and listen to the rabbis. Because this is the world apologist for Messianic Judaism. And if I, a Jewish believer in Jesus for 42 years, a book reader, am not very impressed with this book, and I have studied theology and everything, if I'm not impressed, how is it going to impress a Jewish person who doesn't believe in Jesus? Unless they're very, very naive and gullible and are already in the framework of Christianity and are very, 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 very impressionable. But you're not going to get learned, sober-minded, mature, critical thinkers of Judaism are not going to be impressed with this book. I can't see any rabbi of in any form of Judaism, whether it's Orthodox or Reform, Progressive, whatever, the whole thing. I can't see anybody being impressed with this book or making them think. Or say, maybe he's got a few good points here. Maybe I need to research this. Maybe this Jesus is the Messiah. No, this book didn't do that for me. I don't think it didn't have that effect on me. I wouldn't give this book to any Jewish believer at the time I believed in Jesus. I wouldn't give it. I wouldn't give this book to a Jewish person. Say I wanted to give them a book, as I was a Jewish believer in Jesus. I thought, I want to give them a book that will, make them think, and that can get them thinking, and will be stimulating and thought-provoking and interesting and engaging. Right, engage the reader. I would not give this book. I would not give it. I wouldn't give it away. I wouldn't give it away to a Jewish person. And that's when I was a Jewish believer in Jesus. I mean, I know he's a professor, but you see, I don't mean to be rude or mean about this, but when I listen to the professor, what I'm hearing is a very clever man, but it's a kind of robotic cleverness. It's like there are clever people that can just remember everything. They can quote everything. They know where everything is in a book, and they can quote things. And you think, well, haven't they got a brilliant brain? I couldn't do that. I couldn't remember all that. It's almost like he's got a brilliant memory. He has got a brilliant memory. He might even have a photographic memory. I don't know, but he's obviously got the ability to recall information brilliantly and move around the Hebrew scriptures and the New Testament and relating the two, because he's got that mind that works like that. And also he spent 40 years immersed in the scriptures, but he's very obviously got the brain that can do that, whereas mere mortals perhaps are struggling to, where did it say that? And I can't remember. And I'm sure it was Ezekiel. No, it's not. It's Isaiah, But he has obviously got the kind of brain as a professor who can absorb information, retain it and regurgitate it. But I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean to be rude to him, but this is all I'm getting from Professor Brown, is a man who can regurgitate information. I don't I didn't ever feel when I'm listening to him that he's a spiritual man, and I don't get this from this book either. What I get this from this book is a fired up evangelical Christian who is out of touch with the Jewish community. He's totally out of touch, because if he'd read this book after, when he finished it, dispassionately, critically, he would have realised that all the phrasing that he's using of praise Yeshua, the great salvation, praise the Lord, he would know, no, I can't write that for a Jewish audience. They will not stick with it. They will just shut the book and say, I want nothing to do with this, right? Because the reality is, and what evangelical fired up preachers and writers do not realise about their non-Christian audience, is this evangelical fired up speech is the very thing that puts people off Christianity. An awful lot of people admire Christianity for the good teachings of helping people, feeding the homeless, Mother Teresa, taking care of the sick, visiting the sick, helping, people who can't help themselves. I mean, an awful lot of people out there of no religion, of other religions, do admire that aspect, the Mother Teresa aspect, doing good. Nobody has a problem with that. What people can't stand is the evangelical high-pitched preaching, which was kind of coming through in this book a bit. This is not the professor's fault, in fairness to him, because this book and his videos that I listen to is confirmation of what happens when you get a Jewish person, and it doesn't matter how clever you are, once you join evangelical Christianity, this is what happens to you. When a Jewish person becomes a Christian or Messianic Jew, and I've only realised this after 40 years, is that although they want to retain their Jewishness, they're still Jewish, obviously, legal in every way. They are Jewish, nobody's disputing that. They are legally and technically they are Jewish. However, they're ceasing to think like a Jew. And when I hear Professor Brown and read him, that's why I didn't feel I was listening to a Jew. Because I'm not hearing the depth of analysis that you tend to get with rabbis. Now, before I studied theology, I was a member of an Orthodox Jewish very frum library, right? Because I used to live in an ultra-Orthodox community, and so I was always reading the books. And the rabbis, they're so spiritual, and they get you thinking about things so much. I loved reading all the different books and the commentaries and things. They just bring things alive. They bring everything alive, and they just get you thinking. And thinking around the books and under the books and over the books. And it's just fantastic. The Jewish mind, there's no doubt about it, Jewish learning. And I think this is a lot to do with the emphasis within the Jewish community of critical thinking. Critical thinking is so important in the Jewish community. That's why people say we have so many opinions, is because we are thinking around the box all the time. And we think deeply, and all rabbis love people that ask questions. They love it, because Judaism loves questioning, because the reason why the rabbis love questioning is because it shows that you're paying attention, that you're interested, and that you are thinking about what you've heard or read. Now, this is the complete opposite of Christianity, and I think this explains why this book is so poor, because from the age of 16, the professor, despite him being academically clever, has not been exposed to the Jewish critical thinking, to the environment, to the learning, to the culture, the environment, to being exposed to the rabbis, of learning to think really critically. Because I studied theology and I was so disappointed. I thought it'd be like a Christian yeshiva. I honestly thought this is going to be fantastic. And I was so disappointed. I remember praying to God, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I need a glass of water because it's so dry. All the books are so dry. And this is so dull. And how can such clever people write such dull books and so lacking in elaboration and stimulating you and making you think about anything? And I found this with the lecturers at theological college. I mean, these are obviously very clever, inverted commas, people, but because they're in a religion that does not like questioning, it doesn't like questioning anything, and because Christianity considers all questioning to be doubt. Right, and this is why, on the whole, Christianity despises Judaism. One of the things it despises about Judaism, but it also admires it and is jealous of it and tries to pour contempt on it. But they're really secretly jealous because they realise Judaism's got something, that the rabbis have got something. But what they've got is because of the Jewish tradition of learning, of critical thinking, of exploring, of asking each other questions, of looking at things in different ways, and over everything. And in a way, and I've always found in my experience within the churches, they despise, absolutely despise this. But secretly they're a little bit envious. Because I think they know deep down, particularly higher authorities in the church, they know that Judaism's got something that they haven't got. They know it. But because they're secretly jealous, you know, when you're secretly jealous, you sometimes show contempt for that which you envy. Because it's a classic thing. A woman sees a beautiful woman, and what does she do? Oh, it's her hair's dyed, that's why it looks so nice. She's probably dyed it. It's not really a natural blonde. Right. Because women can be real bitches to each other. And it's really because often they're jealous of each other. You see a beautiful girl, and instead of saying, oh, isn't she beautiful? You say, oh no, it's dyed hair. No, those nails are probably false. We're such bitches. We can be such bitches. We can be so catty. And it's because secretly we're jealous. We are jealous. We are jealous that she's so slim and she's so gorgeous. And of course, she's not only beautiful to look at, she's a gorgeous person. It's obvious she's a lovely person. And she's also very clever. And, you know, so we have to look more for things that are wrong with her. And I think this is what often Christianity does with Judaism. It pours contempt on the Talmud, the same thing. Because this is about Jewish people discussing and thinking and showing humour and wit and just so full of rich ideas. You might not agree with anything, but that's not the point. The point is it gets you thinking, and it's stimulating, it's thought-provoking. And you see, you know, it's so sad that a like man, Professor Brown, has not lived in that culture. You know, if I would love Professor Brown to spend 2 years, to give up all his preaching and his writing, and I would love him to spend 2 years in Israel learning with the Orthodox rabbis, to just go and be a mature student, because he's loaded, he's got loads of money, he can afford to do that. He could take a couple of years off and go and learn about his religion, learn about his rich culture and heritage, learn with the rabbis, and really get to grips with the Jewish perspective of the Messiah and why Jesus isn't accepted as the Messiah. You see, the problem is, what he's about is, when he's listening as a Jewish apologist for Messianic Judaism, he's listening in order to disagree, right? He is listening to try and come up with an argument to disagree, right? And it's the worst possible way to learn. And if he can go and learn without feeling he's got to challenge it. Because there are these people that just listen to just challenge it. If you could just learn to listen and really get into the mindset and to try and understand the other point of view without feeling that he's under an obligation as the messianic apologist for world schmaltz Jewish Christianity to challenge it, right? Although it's very, very difficult because it's I suppose it's second nature, isn't it? To trying to come with the argument against what the rabbis are saying. Now after I didn't finish the book. And that says more about Professor Brown than it does say about me, because I'm telling you, that is a very, very rare first. Because I paid the money for it. I was determined to. I couldn't finish it. I was intending on reading the whole collection of these books. You know, my intention was to read all of Professor Brown's books. That was my intention. I thought, I'm going to learn so much. It's going to be so interesting. I want to end with the style of writing. Now, this is very personal, but I couldn't get into a style of writing. It didn't engage me. Of course, the Hallelujah Yeshua doesn't actually help, does it? No, that's a complete turn-on. But I don't think I think his writing style is I didn't find it engaging. I think his oratory style is better than his written style. I definitely think it's his ability, his oratory style is better. And of course, what helps Professor Brown with his oratory style is he does have he's very tall, he's over 6 foot. You know, he's the grey hair. You know, it's like he's got the image like of the patriarchs. You know, I mean, if he had a beard, you know, that would be it. You know, you think you're listening to, he'd be like Moses or something. You know, he's got. I mean, the presence. Or this. I mean, the visual thing is very important because people are affected by that. I mean, he is visually. He's a huge chest. He's tall. He flirts a bit with the audience as well. He's slightly flirty. A little bit. And I think he manages to engage with the audience a little bit better. His oratory style is better than this written style. And so I wouldn't be inclined to read any more of his books. And the question I'd like to know is, did he actually, which was a real test of, if you're writing a book like this, again, advice, would be, if you're going to write a book like this for the Jewish people, then you would need, before it goes into print, you would need to be giving drafts of the book to rabbis. He would need to give the draft of a book that he's written, aimed for the Jewish people, I presume, and he would need to give it to rabbis of the progressive, of the reform, of the orthodox, and he would need to be very honest with them, say, look, I've written this book, and I want you to be really honest, don't worry about the feelings, and I want you to give me a critical analysis of this book and tell me what you think of it. I also would think he should give this book to long-standing Jewish believers in Jesus, right? And in fact, you could actually, people could reply anonymously. You know, this is it. It's getting people to be honest. to give an honest reply. I mean, he could do it anonymously and say, well, you know, send it out and then say to people, you don't even have to tell me who you are, because, and just tell me what you think of this book. Because I would presume anybody who writes a book would give it to somebody to read before they send it off to publish. You would need to give it to somebody who you know and trust to give you an honest, critical analysis of the book, where the strengths are and where the weaknesses are. Now, I have focused on the weaknesses, haven't I? And you're going to say, well, now, to be fair to the professor, is there any strength to this book? The strength is I do like the image. I like the cover to the book. Now, this is the cover of a book's very, very important, because if you're in a bookshop, the cover of the book is very, very important. It's also in paperback. The print is, I'm able to cope with the print, the size of the print. That's also important, because how many times I've not been able to finish, you know, I have sometimes struggled with a book or not being able to finish it simply because of the printing is too small. The printing is too small. So it's a small thing, but it's important. And so the only good thing from this book is the cover, the clear type, the size of the type, and right, now I'm just looking at the dedication here. Right, now this is very typical now. You'll smile. To my Jewish people in Israel, America and around the world, the time of our salvation is at hand! Exclamation mark. The time of our salvation is at hand. Now this is typical. Now you've heard me say that's what it's like all through the book. He shouldn't have written that. He should have written something like, to my Jewish audience, I hope you find this book helpful and thought-provoking. Or something, I don't know, something, you know, different. Something different. And so that's it, really. I can't think of anything else to say. I then went, in contrast, I don't want to go into detail because we're focused on this book, aren't we? But I just want to give you, just to show you the difference in a book I got from Rabbi Tovia Singer. Now he has got a website called Outreach Judaism, and he has spent his life trying to bring Jewish people back to Judaism and trying to show people that Jesus is not the Messiah and why he's not the Messiah and so on. This is a man who knows the Hebrew Scriptures and the New Testament inside out. Now I sent away for one of his books, right? The difference is phenomenal. I'll just get the book just so I show you. Right. This is the we do things in a big way. You see. This is a Jewish book. You will not ignore this book. If this was in a bookshop, you would notice this, wouldn't you? Right? This is a brilliant cover. Wow, what a cover this is. Wow, what a cover this is. This is absolutely brilliant. Just look at that. Look at that. This is just brilliant. Just the cover alone. It's called Let's Get Biblical. Right. So I'm not going to be giving a spiel on that book. But the comparison. First of all, this book is so easy to understand. If you hate reading, if you hate books, if you're not a bookish person, and you're thinking, why shouldn't we as Jewish people, why oh, why don't we believe in Jesus? And you're just curious, but you don't like reading, you don't like books, and the thought of reading a Bible, Ezekiel, Isaiah, you're not interested, you're so not interested, because an awful lot of people don't like reading. They don't like reading. They don't like reading, you don't like books, you've got other hobbies and interests. If you're one of those people, but you're curious to know why Jesus is considered by the rabbis not to be the Messiah, then this is a book, because this book is beautifully laid out. It's fantastic book. I would use it as an example for giving information. This is the layout of the book is brilliant because it's in large type. It's beautifully laid out. It has pictures in it. Writing and then with a big picture. I don't want the rabbi to take this wrong, or the listener to take this the wrong way, but this book is a bit like, I would call it the Sun newspaper or the Daily Mirror newspaper. It's a tabloid newspaper meant for people who don't like reading. So the layout is easy on the eye. This book is easy on the eye. He is so clear. He is a brilliant communicator. I know from reading this book exactly why Jesus is not the Messiah. So when I'm comparing this book with this book, this is the book I would recommend. Right, this is a book that is easy to understand. It's engaging, it's riveting, it's thought-provoking. It's really, really interesting. And even if you hate books, you will find this and you will be able to engage with this book. You won't say, oh, I can't read that anymore. No. This has been, I think, the layout and the presentation and everything of this book is geared for ordinary Jewish people who don't like reading, who just are interested, wouldn't think of reading, the Tanakh or anything. He said, no, I don't want to read. No, I don't want to read. I did that I don't want to be doing. What do I want to be doing that for? No. No, this book is fantastic. And this grabbed me, you see. I'm a Jewish believer in Jesus. This one, I couldn't finish it. I couldn't even finish it. This book is thought-provoking, is riveting, is stimulating. You just can't compare them. You can't compare them. This book, I'll finish. No problem. Right? This, I haven't finished. I would not give that as a Jewish believer in Jesus when I was. I would not give that to any Jewish person. I'd be embarrassed. Because of him saying all these exclamations of praise Yeshua, and I'd be really embarrassed. Because I know as a Jewish person that kind of thing puts me off. And you see, the fact that this book is like this is Rabbi Tovia Singer. This shows you the layout, the presentation, the fact that it manages to engage me, the fact that it's interesting. You feel you're being informed about something, and it's a wonderful book. He knows his audience. He knows as a rabbi that most Jewish people, the thought of reading the Tanakh is like, no, it's like doing it, no, I did it, oh, that's for clever people, I'm not, no, I can't be doing it. He knows that. His job as a rabbi, he is communicating day in, day out with people who don't like reading. As a rabbi, he knows that. He knows a lot of his Jewish audience are not book readers. They're not, they're not necessarily academic. They might not have taken any. They find anything you know, any form of academia difficult. They might not have any left school with no qualifications. People who never read a serious newspaper. And this book, he's written it with the ordinary person in mind. He's communicating in a language for ordinary people that ordinary people can understand. There's something about the style meant I couldn't finish it. And so I hope this book review has been interesting and informative, because I want to be fair to the professor about this book. And he hasn't managed to persuade me. I no longer believe that Jesus is the Messiah, you see. And when I listen to the rabbis and when I listen to the professor, as a Jewish believer in Jesus of 40 years, he wasn't convincing me. This is what was so awful. The people who made me think was Professor Michael Skobac, his videos, and Rabbi Tovia Singer. They were the ones, and also Rabbi Stuart Federer, that's written a book also, which I read on Kindle. Again, that book was very simple. It's clear. Anybody could pick it up anywhere and read it anywhere, and it's simple, it's easy to understand. The layout's fantastic. It's easy on the eye, it's easy on here. You say, oh no, I can't understand this. It's absolutely brilliant communicators. But often rabbis are brilliant communicators. I go on Chabad, right, regularly, and there's no doubt about it. They are brilliant communicators. And I'm proud, that I belong to a people who are able to communicate so well. And there's no doubt that despite the fact that this professor is so clever academically, he doesn't stimulate me or get me thinking in any way. Not through the book or not through his videos, I'm sorry to say. But I think, again, this is not his fault. It's because he has been living in the non-Jewish world of Christianity, which has not helped him to develop his religious thought. I don't think he's very developed spiritually. He's clever, but he hasn't developed spiritually. And I think he needs to go full time and learn with the rabbis. And I think it would change him. I think if Professor Brown went and studied with the rabbis for a couple of years, as I mentioned earlier, I think that he would end up giving up this Jesus belief. I really, really do, because when I listen to Professor Brown and when I read Professor Brown, I don't feel I'm listening to a deep thinking spiritual person. I don't get that. And I just feel I'm listening to an evangelical Christian who is in that box, in the box I was in. And it's because I can see it now, because I have now moved away, and I can see how limiting it is. Unfortunately, Christianity is so limiting in that in many ways you can't grow very much spiritually, because you're not asking questions and you're not thinking very deeply. And he can't help this. He can't help. When I listen to Professor Brown, I don't hear a deep thinker. I don't feel when I read that, I felt a deep thinking person. And that's because he hasn't been developed as a Jew fully, because he's spent his life since the age of 16 within Christianity, and that's really, really, really sad. And I feel very sad about that. And I feel sad for myself that I spent 42 years within Christian evangelical culture, and um, and probably I wasn't as developed spiritually, and so I'm sorry for talking too long, but I hope you got something out of this video.